masamusa Luwani refugee camp kubwera kuzaleka. Titafika kuluwani tinavotika kwa mbele chifukwa ndi zuwa limene limakalira kuluwani. Mwaifeyo sitina kanisa kuti tizikhala kuluwani. Tinapempa boma la Malawi kuti Luwani is ahead. Pamene timalira kuti atitandize ndiye anatibweresa kunoko kuzaleka 2007 just in July. Pamene ndinabwera ndikanafika kunoko kuzaleka takhalodisako tilibe mlandu ndi mutu sapo koso sitima panza komano wino wake umene tima gwira kunoko kampu akuzira ko zambiri muri mitundu ya mbere ya antu ochokera maiko osiyana. There is Somalians, Ethiopians, Burundi, monga matitana ngati Burundi, kuli Rwanda, kuli Sudan, ndiye na ake. Is more than like 12 nationalities in the camp. So ineyo ngati mnyamata msoweli wa nyamata kuzaleka kuno. Pamene tinalowa mkampu tinaona maumulizi tuzambiri zimene zikutipasa challenge fair nyamata. Mu challenge mo tinakala pasi tinaganizira zintu zambiri mbiri chifukwa kwatu kumene tinabadwa fair. We had our personal culture. And coming to the refugee camp, it doesn't mean that we have to change our culture. So zimene ndinapunzira kwa nyamata koza, so most of wanyamata chifukwa analibe chotita. They were busy smoking chamba, drug alcohol abuse, so says unprotected section. Ifeo tinaganzira kuti sitingalowere, but it's time for us to teach our generation. Fukwa palimawe na kamena machuza kuti my youth ndi my leader la tomorrow. Leti nango na kuti ndingakale kwanji leader wa mawa pamene sina punziro. Thank you to GRS, thank you to UNHCR, anatiboresera mapunziro mkampu muno. Dinango punziro ndamaliza mapunziro wanga ku GRS lina itana nyamata nzanga amene anandilera kuti no, we need to change in our community. Tinakala pasi. Tawi mene tinango kala pasi tina bwera ndi CBO imene machulidwa Dzaleka Youth Organization. Cholinga cha Dzaleka Youth Organization osati kubweza pokoso mkampu kukapunzisana zakuba zina zake zoipa iyai. Koma ubino wa Dzaleka Youth Organization ni kukaika nyamata pamozi kupunzira mapunziro osiyana. Ali yese depend on zintu zimene umafuna iweyo. Tirendi gulu la judo for peace, because there is no development without peace. Tina yambane ma workshop la peace conflict. Kale munomo munali pokoso ma Somalia, ma Ethiopians, ndi ma Burundi, kumenya na kwambiri ndi ma Congolese. Ifeyo tinango organizira kuti let's be the peacekeepers in the camp. Tina ikabulu from that team that we organized, ndapunzira muzintu it comes this project of judo for peace. From judo tindi tinakonza ko ina project ya mamodo monga mnaonera kuti hapa na perform the fashion in the dust but manifestival lero. It's a project that we have in Dzaleka Youth Organization. Tina konzako project in ya judo for hope, it's especially for youth, small kids at school, primary school and secondary school. Tirindi project ya opunzisa nyamata luso kumeta sisi. Chifukwa sunga muze mutukuti tasia ni zakuba koma usampasi zimene zampanga bizi. ifeyo ngati malidala tinangoganizira kuti despite ma challenge amene tikuzeramo za funds tilibe bora tizi user ma mind amene tili nayo nzeru zimene tili nazo kuti tiphunzitse anyamata anzathu luso zimene tili nazo. Ndiye tinasegula training ya hairdresser and barbering. Zera bwino it is successful with 45 candidates. Ena panopo alikwenda for 7 ya kumeta masaloni, ena 25, ena kubiwi aliko. Sitina tere ya toko, tina bwera sondi project ya decoration. Dzaleka Youth Organization mwamuja. Tina punzisa nyamata 15. So panga decoration ngatirundi ugwati. You can call us. Siningamve manyaze kuti ndikutumiza nyamata bwere akapangiza decoration kwa ukubwati wangu. Tirendi project ya music. Let's teach our kids. Most of my youths yatu kunoko kuzaleka anabadwa kuno. Koma makachiro wao kumene anachokera sakuziwa. But as amene tinachokera ku Congo, ku DRC, ku Burundi, ku Rwanda, tima kumana aliyese kufuta kuzakacha ya kwao. And we used to give some let's say homework to our students kuti mukapita kunyumba muzifusa azibambo madala anu agogo kwao kale makacha wa maendera kwanji. From that tima apunzisa kacha ya Congo ya Burundi. Each and every people have to keep his culture in diversity, and we have to protect the culture as a UNESCO value. So tina sias menezo. Thank you thank you to British Council. For 2019 I was selected as a hub manager among 23 people who were selected around the world or Africa. Kuti apite akapunziriza how can you manage the hub. So from the knowledge that I gained from British Council program, using it in our community. And today I can say that I'm proud to have a lot of young people who is behind me. Yeah.
I think the Makambako Zambi too. I just wanted to know how you have integrated culture because first of all we have our culture, right? We are all African, but our culture is like you say, how has being part of the Malawian culture contributed positively towards Moiwanu and refugees who come?
Ziko mkwambiri. Mumene tinapangira integrate culture or mukacha ya Malawi, because tinaonera Malawi muli makacha za mbili. Muli Asena, Atumbuka, Achewa, Angoni, ndiye na haki amene sindikuziwa. It's like 8 to 10 cultures. So if you can see the culture that Angoni ama kala nayo, the culture ya South Africa, let's call that Zululand. And if you can move to our country, the same culture, uipeza kukatanga.
Yeah.
You see? It's where that's why some of the people they are saying that achewa inuyo munatokera kuti kudirasi. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I think I can agree similarities.
Yes.
Even in language wise. Because now I'm going to notice there are some people in Rwanda the Kenyan language, what you call Swahili. And there are people that speak in Kinyarwanda, in Swahili. And most of the time, my languages are very similar to Zulu, Shalapans, Kalapans. They are like very similar.
Momemo ndi mene tina onera kuti makacha up Malawi they looks as the same ndi makacha atu. So what we do, sitting, we can't break the culture of Malawi because it looks like ours. Once in the Kalapisa mukacha yatu, pali chilango chimena mandipasa. Ineo ngati wako Congo, makamaka mtundu wa Afriru. Ikakala kutinda la kuisa, amandipasa chilango chake. If you see, you look deeply, makacha ku Malawi looks as the same in the makacha art. So it's familiar. Momwemo kuti ndilowere kuvala kwanu. Ona, ndi kuvala kwa ifeyo. Simu malola kuti muntu azienda mapasi upanda zovala. I saw last time kuli mzunguina wake anachoka kaya kuti, kaya South Africa, wapezeka kukamuzuru airport, wavala kapanti kwa kabasi. Nde ali yense pa airport pa jamaa madaba ndi mzungu.
Amadaba, kuti kwa nisukala banki.
Iyo ndikacha yao. Kwatu ifeyo, anandi kunzisa kuti ineyo, as a brand man, I have to respect the culture. Sindinga vale zone sa my research is prohibited to our culture. Makamaka Malawi, you see. So, pamene tinafika kunoko, tinangona kuti makacha anu ndiyatu, it looks same. There is something that I'm learning from Malawian culture, and there is something that Malawian people, they are learning from Congolese culture. Yeah. So, momwemo tikwendela limosi. Yeah.
China shoma timefuna kuletsa kwamini chokuti what does the day look like? Mukakhala kunoko, like when you wake up in the morning, on a regular day, what do you get up to? Mumabanga jani?
Okay, ndikumbuseni. Malawi is a beautiful country. Ziko la mtendere. Kwatu ukalowa mnyumba kuti kugona. So magona mbene timagonera mdomo Malawi. Pena paka maganizira mwina ndikazuka mamawa. Ndipeza antu pakomo akudigira kuti andipe. Ngati onamva last week ku Bukavu. Kunali zomenya na sakondo. If you read the newspaper. Yesterday ku South Kivu Komweko, in our territory, they call it Uvira. In Uvira yesterday, they fought again. Akuba mamilisha zanango bwera kukapantu yesterday night. So ndikazuka kunoko ku Malawi, mama was especially kunoko ku Dzaleka. I don't fear anyone. I'm free. This is in the ziko limene muli mtendere. Aliyese ufulu wa muntu ulima. Despite kuti tima itanidwa ma Burundi. Tinazolowera. Olondi itani mu Burundi while I'm a Congolese. I don't care. Yeah, it's just a name. From 6 ndikazoka ndimapita ku training ya judo. Ku hall kuja. Ndikabwerera ndima bwera kunoko ndindi asikana mwana wakulu wanga amene amanditandiza kupika. Komano according to our culture sindingalowere kukapika chakudya kumene kuli mwana. Especially msikana. Anganaka bakuti ndiza 10 ndinganaka bakuti ni mama mtandiza. But from 15 up sindingalowere pa kitchen kuti ndiyambe kusaka izi zaenda bwanji izi zili bwanji. Apo ndala kuisa kwatu. So ndikachoka umeneko ikakala ndintawo kuti tikulandira chakudya. Ndimapita kulandira chakudya ndeka. Ende chakudya chake timene timalandira sitima kwana. Ama tipasa cha mwezi. Can you imagine? Is it possible to somebody to eat $3 per month?
No.
So
what kind of food do they give?
Chakudya timena matipasa mama kala sopu and ufawa, how do you call no, not gaiwa. Ufawa tima kwanza pala. Ufawa pala.
Yes.
Yeah, soya.
Soya.
Yes. amatipasa sopo ziwiri ndi 75 milliliters ya oil just for 1 month. Then from there kale amatipasa 13 kg ya mezi koma nasinta 13 kg yoyo ndi $3 imene timalandira pa mwezi.
That $3 is supposed to take you through mwezi umene.
Yeah.
How does that affect your life?
Zijazima nipeteka pambili ineyo, as I'm saying that I'm a single. Can you imagine a single person can eat $3 per month? Something that is impossible. So I have to look around to look for another thing that ikoza kukanditandiza kuti mwezi ufike mwina ndirinzi chako chachokonera nyumba mwangu. Yeah.
And okay, besides the projects so many for Ngozawa, are they something that you earn money with? Kabena muma is a bunch of makani. Don't you a budget ya $3?
No.
How do you make an income at Dzaleka?
It depends on the person. Mwina malandira ndama kutoka hapa Zibari hawa amena likunja kama mbali ya ine sometimes ndima gwea jito ndima meka yeah. Ndekakala kuti sindiri busy ndi mariyose za nyamata from morning ndikuziwa. That's why I schedule ndinaika from 6 to 8 timakala mjudo. From 8 to 2 o'clock, let's say from 9 to 4 ndikatoka koko zimafunika kuti ndigwere kuno ndikasambe. Ndikamaliza I have to go to around the camp. Ndiyangane pamene pa saluni mwina I can say okay ndilibe saluni amwene lero libe antu amene akuza kwa kutandiza. Can you give me a chance kuti tikale limozi? Yeah, akandipasa ukameta antu. Maybe per day I can cut 10 people. From that 10 people I get 5%. Kuonera kuti I circulate. Yeah, this is how I try my best to survive here in Tanzania.
Firstly, I'd like to know how it affected you last year because of the pandemic. Now, how has the Tumaini uplifted your lives?
By there I can say it depends on the person. On my side I don't perform at Tumaini, but I send my people to perform at Tumaini. And I used to fight so that Anaja, my group of managers now, can you imagine? More than 7 groups Opana perform. They just took one groups. My model now is as a fashion in the dust. Enaja, they are coming to me complaining. Ndikakoneza nganakala kuti umamva Kiswahili mwina ndingana segula maodi kuti uzimva ena kuti tukona. You are not feeling your responsibility as a team manager. Sizingateke kuti yena kupanga perform ife tigwala kunyumba. Okuti tumiza kuti tipite kwenda packet kabi. Tikamangidwa kwa ndani kukati masukisa mundende. Ndiweyo. What I can say kumbali ya Tumaini ndiabwe. Chifukwa tikupunzira ko zintu zambiri mbiri and pali zina zake zikufunika kuti zikonzedwe mu Tumaini. This question should be asked by Tumaini people if they can consider it. Chifukwa ifema refugees timaziwa tikati kuti ndimuze trezo look here, there is something that you have to correct. Tumaini sina ende bwino chakati menete kuonera ndi Tumaini zimene zinapita sina ende.
To put our discussion into context, we would first want to understand where refugee is before we even want to get into the law as it is written. Refugee persons who come from another country are often running away from war and other human rights threats, and they come in a particular country, and in that way the law is supposed to regulate such persons. To speak about the general context about the law is the law protects refugees. You'll remember that Malawi is a signatory to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and it's something that we have also adopted it and localized it as Malawian law. But we have also put the Bill of Rights under Section 4, under Chapter 4 of the Constitution, where rights of persons who are seeking some protection from another country are protected. So broadly, I would say that the law protects refugees, yes. But I think in the later discussion, we can go in the specifics of these laws.
Okay. That brings me to a question. Not so long ago, the government ordered refugees that were in towns and cities across the country to go back to the camp. What I want to understand is, does the law command every refugee to like stay at the camp for the rest of their lives? What exactly happens? Can someone cease from being a refugee to just being now a normal person and integrate into the society?
All right. The discussion is a bit. It's not as complex as it should be, but I think our situation has made it a bit complex. Uh, what we understand is, we should understand is the laws of Malawi firstly protect the rights of refugees in terms of could they earn income, in terms of economic activity, in terms of development, in terms of other aspects. But the law also forgets to puts the refugees in a camp. Uh, for the very reason, this has been a practice that has happened in several other countries. It's not just Malawi that has a refugee camp. But we should understand that our context is regulated by laws that are a bit out of date. There are things that we are supposed to regulate. I also have examples of, just to put into context that the laws are discriminatory. You'd find that even our Immigration Act under Section 4 doesn't allow a migrant who has visual impairment, hearing impairment to come in. And you would understand that that's also part of what the laws are backward in nature. But there are developments that have happened, yes, and that are preparing the people not to be living in Dzaleka refugee camp or Luan refugee camp. There's a pressure group that is building, and which I'm part of, SCCJB is part of, where we want refugees to be incorporated in the society, or perhaps they voluntarily are repatriated, or they resettle to more decent means. But again, without changing our laws and the regulations that follow, it becomes problematic for them to live outside camps.
You've actually pointed out that our laws in regards with refugees are sort of outdated. As an advocate for human rights, maybe what is happening on the ground to ensure that the laws are revised and these people actually get to live life like a normal person? Because I understand that other countries, when you reach a certain amount of years, you can actually gain citizenship. What is delaying the process in Malawi?
All right. First, let us attribute it to the lawmaking process in Malawi. You look at how the law is made. Uh, we are a bit slow. I don't think the Refugee Act is an isolated act in terms of regulating the rights of persons who are vulnerable. We have even way outdated laws. The Witchcraft Act is of 1911. We have another act that is the Tenants Labor Bill that has been there since 2004, and it has never seen the door of Parliament. We have several other laws. Actually, in one of our engagements, when we were pushing for the enactment of the disability bill, we learned that the Ministry of Justice has 300 pieces of legislation that are not yet passed. So you would understand what is there, and in the process of the Refugee Act and many other laws, it's not only about passing the law, it's about reviewing the law, consultations, and others. So I believe that the task to get this law reviewed and enacted to protect the refugees should start with us, who are the pressure group to for us for this law to rise above the 300, because we already know that we are in a crisis of sorts when it comes to refugees in Malawi.
The other thing that I wanted to understand was when we spoke to the NGO that is headed by a refugee about the benefits of the Tumaini Festival. They were like, it's actually the only time that people can see the refugees for who they are. Like, it's not just hearing stories about it. And he pointed out something that caught my interest. He said, on any other day, if I want to go to Dzaleka, I actually have to get permission. How does that work? Why is there a process where I'm supposed to actually seek for permission to go to? For the guys who come here, I understand maybe a little bit, but for us now, citizens of the country, if I wanted to do something like that, I would have to get permission. Who do I go to get permission? If I do not get permission and I'm found at Dzaleka without that, what are the consequences?
So what we should understand there is what are called the laws, and what is called the practice that has happened. And what we have seen so far, uh, the laws have not been very kind to give in practice that will benefit refugees. So, uh, for example, you know the process of one to apply as for refugee status. There's what is called a refugee committee for to, and that is composed of the attorney general, the inspector general, uh, the secretary of to the government, and others. They compose what is called the refugee committee. So one applies there to come to the to be at a refugee camp, and immediately one is granted that status. You already see that in that context, the law is already biasing. Is already secluding this person from the general population. That's the reason why the effect has been, the domino effect has been, we treat refugees as people that are alien. They are not integrated in the society. That's the reason why the practice has also developed among the refugee camps that you nobody can just go in and unless the permission is sought. And again, that is part of affecting their right to interact, to associate with the people that are available. I wouldn't be comfortable in a situation where people who are refugees are interacting away in a country that they should be participating in their promotion. So again, it's about practice, but which has been developed out of the general position of the law that has been put in place.
Right. And I also wanted to understand the difference between a refugee and an asylum seeker, because you have clearly said there are processes that one has to go through in order to become a refugee or obtain a refugee status. What's the difference between the two, asylum seeker and a refugee?
Well, the differences are just small. Because asylum seeker is usually a general term. Yeah, uh, we we are looking at people who are, for example, people who are practicing a certain religion, and they're not welcome in that country. They run to another country because they have been pursued by another state. But a refugee is where you find that it's not comfortable to be in that place, especially in times of war. Often refugee status is granted in that way. But you should also understand that in the context of the Refugee Act, is not limited to those who are coming for war, but those who are persecuted for other purposes. So in the broad context, is an asylum seeker should be the one who is being pursued for his country is not giving him a lot of peace, or depending on a particular status, either the person is this sexual orientation, and others have become another issue. But eventually, it's a broader context of the refugees. But I often prefer to call somebody an asylum seeker than a refugee, because an asylum seeker already carries the meaning that somebody is running away from somewhere, and he needs to be rescued and needs some refugee.
Okay, now as a human rights advocate, what do you think would be the best way to like go forward, regardless of the fact that the law process making is always going to be delayed, and what can be done to ensure that refugees are in a much better place than they are right now? Because we really did speak to them and they expressed their, I feel like it's very inhuman, the situation in which they live in. Like you said, by being a refugee, you're already, sort of isolated. So going forward as a human rights advocate, and as a people, as a community, what can we do to make it better for our friends? Because we could find ourselves in the same situation sometime.
Yes, first maybe let me just start with giving a brief discussion on some of the problems are not. Yes, the law has biases, but some of the problem is because we have not interpreted the law well. Because if you look at Section 47 of the Constitution on how one can become a citizen, one is through registry, uh, through birth, through decency. If your grandfather was a Malawian, so you become a Malawian too, and four, through marriage. So these four ways are the ones one can attain citizenship, and that's what the Constitution is saying. But we find that people who are being born in refugee camps from foreign couples are not incorporated in the society, because when the constitution is very clear in that regard, that somebody can attain citizenship for the very reason that is born in Malawi. So another problem is we have not been able to appreciate what the law has said. We say. Secondly, we understand that the most important thing now is to revise the law. When we're revising the law, we should look at what are other countries doing and what are human rights standards doing. And if you look in the context of Malawians, you find that most of the refugees that are there are Africans. Yeah, people from Sudan, people from Somalia, Ethiopia, and other countries. But you find that these, in the context of Pan-Africanism, would have incorporated them in our society. Because if you look at in the broader context, is that every Malawian is a refugee because of some sort. Is somebody who came to Malawi from another country. The Chiwas are from Congo. Then you look at the Lomwes are from Mozambique, so on and so forth, which simply means that in a larger extent, we're just in here area than some people. So it doesn't give us the privilege of staying in Malawi and wanting to claim the country for ourselves.